You're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada. I'm Jon Elmer. This is the Resistance Report for day 580. This is the second segment of this report. The first segment is Gaza. We are going to turn now to Yemen. There's some big news in Yemen this week, a number of stories. We can start with the satellite map. This is from the International Space Station showing the Red Sea. The Red Sea at the bottom of the map, you can see that choke point is the Bab el-Mandeb. The Red Sea runs across from the center of your screen to the upper left, where you can see it go into the Gulf of Eilat, which goes into the port that has been all but bankrupted more than a year ago by the Ansar Allah Yemeni Armed Forces blockade. To the left, at the top, is the Suez Canal, and the American aircraft carrier strike group has been in the north of that Red Sea. Well, on day 52 of the United States war on Yemen, that began with that has carried out more than U.S. has carried out more than 1,000 airstrikes since March 15th, when the operation began, under a presidential order announced on Tuesday during a press availability in the Oval Office. The Pentagon was told by the president to stand down on the war in Yemen, Operation Rough Rider. This ceasefire is a bilateral ceasefire between only the Yemeni armed forces and the United States, and it only impacts the shooting at each other directly. This is the United States suing for peace through Oman, who are negotiating on the Iran deal with the U.S. The Yemenis are not involved in those discussions, and so there's no case that the Yemenis brought this to the Omanis. This is a United States call for a separate ceasefire, and Trump said, "We will stop the bombing of the Houthis effective immediately." And it is worth noting that, as I've been saying week after week covering this, the Yemenis are not targeting ships in the Red Sea. They have not been. In large measure, they're not, because global shipping has long ago responded to the closure of the Red Sea and have rerouted down around Africa, and the shipping industry, with their insurance rates, made it so that it was prohibitive for ships to get involved in that. And they don't just flip overnight when there's a ceasefire. They don't say, okay, all our ships are going to now change directions, because they have the entire architecture and infrastructure for shipping to now go around Africa. So they're not going to respond to that, which is why we didn't see Yemenis targeting ships in the Red Sea. The foreign minister of Oman released this statement saying, following recent discussions and contact conducted by the Sultanate of Oman and the United States with relevant authorities in Sana'a and the Republic of Yemen with the aim of de-escalation, efforts have resulted in a ceasefire agreement between the two sides, not Israel. Israel is not involved in this statement. Israel this is, like I said, a separate bilateral peace. In the future, neither side will target the other, including American vessels in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So direct ceasefire between the two sides. Ansar Allah spokesman Mohammed Abdul Salam said that Yemen's operations supporting Gaza will not stop. We did not submit any requests to the Americans. Rather, we received requests and messages through our brothers in Oman over the past weeks. The Americans have cornered themselves by supporting the Israeli enemy, and we have responded to them. Our position on the Palestinian cause and support for Gaza will not change. Our principled understanding with the Americans has no relation to our stance at all supporting Gaza. And so just to say that the USS Harry Truman and the USS Vinson, which are both, the USS Vinson is down in the Arabian Sea, and the Truman is up north in the Red Sea. The Truman alone was the subject of 40 separate operations in the 52 days, using 200 anti-ship ballistic missiles, anti-ship cruise missiles, and drones. So the aircraft carriers are under fire virtually every single day. 40 operations in 52 days. And the United States had 2 carrier strike groups, half of their B-2 bomber fleet, an entire air wing in Jordan, and they have lost 22 MQ-9 Reaper drones since October 7th, 26 Reaper drones since 2017. So it was a costly war for the Americans. Abdel Malik al-Houthi spoke today, just a few minutes ago, and a couple of things that he said. He said, this week, the Americans carried out aggressive operations against our country with nearly 200 raids and naval bombardments. Most of the American aggressive operations were against our country targeted civilian objectives. The U.S. and Navy bombardment of our country since March 15th amounted to 1,712 raids, air raids, and naval bombardments. The escalation of the American aggression did not affect our military capabilities, did not stop our operations, and did not affect the popular will of our people every week. Our people, despite the American escalation, took to the streets in massive, million-strong demonstrations in hundreds of squares, and demonstrations unparalleled anywhere in the world that took place across Yemen. In the face of this failure, the Americans reached the option of stopping this support, according to what the Americans announced and informed our brothers in the Sultanate of Oman. So pretty clear there. Statements by both sides, and Trump was very clear in the White House that they were standing down. So let's take a look at the next map, because this is only one part, of course, the American War. We have covered the American War every week on the show. But the Israeli war is a separate war that the Americans were participating in and now apparently are no longer. So we will see how that goes, and we will cover it in the weeks ahead. But as you can see on this map, and particularly if we go to the next map with the missile range, I've shown you guys this map before, but you can see Tel Aviv and North Palestine are also within missile range, and these are Yemeni operations just in 1 week. This 1 week, the week where they're under attack by the Americans, 200 plus American air raids. During that time, the Yemeni armed forces carried out 2 drones versus Ramat David Air Base in the north, 1 drone versus a military position in Tel Aviv, anti-ship ballistic missiles and drones versus the USS Harry Truman, a ballistic missile versus Ben Gurion Airport, 1 drone versus Ashkelon, which is Tel Nof Air Base, 1 Palestine 2 missile versus Tel Aviv, another Palestine 2 missile versus Ramat David Air Base in the north, that's in Haifa, another Palestine 2 ballistic missile at Ramat David Air Base in Haifa, which brings the total to 30 ballistic missiles fired at Israel since March 18th. And the 3 main bases they're targeting are the Tel Nof Air Base, the Ramat David Air Base, and the Nevatim Air Base. And at the end of this week, just yesterday, they fired 3 Palestine 2 ballistic missiles, again, twice at Ramat David and once at Nevatim. So those operations carried on consistently post ceasefire agreement with the United States. We have incoming here the missile strike on the Ben Gurion Airport. So just as a heads up to our listeners, you're going to hear sirens, and then the strike of the believed to be Palestine 2 ballistic missile that hit Tel Aviv. If we go to number 22 now. So that's a near miss. Was within 300 meters, few hundred meters of the main terminal. It bypassed 4 layers of Israeli air defense. Multiple THAAD missiles were launched in order to intercept it. A THAAD battery, those came from the United States and were placed in Israel for this purpose. Those are $2 billion batteries that fire $12 million interceptors. The Arrow 3 also missed with multiple shots, and it fires a $4 million interceptor. So, tens of millions of dollars of failed interceptions. On this video here, this is CCTV footage of the attack. And the second one here, I have slowed it down so you can see in slow motion just how close we're talking about. That's the air traffic control tower right beside it there. And you can see the explosion. Maybe we can loop that around again tomorrow. You can see the explosion hitting very close. The Yemeni armed forces said about this attack in support of the oppressed Palestinian people and their fighters, and in rejection of the crime of genocide being carried out by the Zionist enemy against our brothers in the Gaza Strip, the missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation targeting Ben Gurion Airport in the occupied Jaffa area, using a hypersonic ballistic missile, which successfully hit its target by the grace of God. Accordingly, the Yemeni armed forces renew their warning to all international airlines to halt flights to Ben Gurion Airport, as it is no longer safe for air navigation. And that was the case. Also, that day, they fired multiple drones that day as well. They also said Yemen and its people, its leadership, and its army continue to stand firm and steadfast in the face of American aggression, never abandoning its religious, moral, and humanitarian duty towards the oppressed Palestinian people, regardless of the consequences, until the aggression on Gaza ceases and the siege is lifted. So very clear that nothing related to the Americans has anything to do with what is happening in the Israeli-Yemeni battle. Israel's response, we can look at the next slide. You can see the crater that was created in this near miss strike. That's an Israeli security force guy climbing out of the 25-meter deep crater. Abu Obaida, spokesperson for the Qassam Brigades, released a statement saying, "Glory to Yemen, Palestine's equal, as it continues to defy the most brutal forces of oppression and refuses to submit or be defeated despite the aggression it is subjected to. It escalates its attacks on the heart of the deformed Zionist entity, surpassing the most advanced systems, air defense systems in the world, and accurately hitting its targets. May God guide your aim, bless your struggle, and accept your sacrifices. You are from us, and we are from you," said Abu Obaida. The Israelis responded as they do by destroying the Sana'a airport, which was immediately begun to be rebuilt within minutes of the Israeli strike. The Israelis also struck 4 power plants and a concrete factory, civilian targets as ever. The next slide is also from the Palestinian resistance. This is the Abu Ali Mustafa Brigade's poster that they published that says, "Long live the Yemeni hands, always pressing on the trigger. Long live the great Yemen." And earlier, the PFLP released a statement that said, "The darkness of the Arab night has been dispelled. Salute to Yemen, its people, and its resistance." The Abu Ali Mustafa Brigade's spokesperson, Abu Jamal, said, "Today, Yemen sends a message of iron and fire to the Zionist entity in support and backing of our steadfast Palestinian people and their resistance as part of the response to the crimes of the occupation against our people. The Yemeni strike proves the failure of the occupation's security systems and those of its regional affiliates, and writes a page of honor for Yemen in the annals of history amid Arab and international official cowardice regarding our people." So strong statements from the PFLP. And also, just to note, a parting shot for the USS Harry Truman, which was scheduled to return home this week. So without a statement from Trump calling for a ceasefire, we were going to see the USS Harry Truman limp home back to America out of the Red Sea, which was going to be taken as a significant victory by the Yemenis. So it looks like the Americans stepped in at that moment and not allowing that to happen. They lost a second FA-18 Super Hornet fighter jet off the deck of the USS Harry Truman. This is now the third FA-18 $70 million fighter jet that they lost. I reported last week on the one that fell into the Red Sea and is now still sitting at the bottom of the Red Sea because of an evasive action that the USS Harry Truman aircraft carrier had to take because of a barrage of Yemeni anti-ship cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and drones. Also, the third jet that was lost during a concentrated attack by the Yemeni armed forces at the end of last year. And the USS Gettysburg, its escort cruiser, shot down its own plane, confusing it for an incoming missile. So significant losses define the end of this battle between the Americans and the Yemenis, and it's very difficult from an objective perspective to say anything other than this is a victory for Yemen, that the Americans have backed out of this battle and left Israel alone to fight that battle. Israel's response to the attack on Ben Gurion was on their own, and Netanyahu kind of sadly said that they will continue to fight all alone against Yemen. So that is the resistance report for day 580.